The leaders of the U.S. and Ukraine signed a 10-year bilateral security agreement aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense against Russia. And G7 members also agreed to lend Ukraine $50 billion using Russia's frozen assets. Seung-jae has more.
This year's G7 summit, held in Italy, focused on a number of global issues, including the prolonged war in Ukraine. On the sidelines of the summit on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy agreed on a 10-year security agreement aimed at strengthening Ukraine's defense against Russia. While the pact does not commit the U.S. to supply troops to defend Ukraine in case of an attack, it does commit Washington to hold high-level consultations with Kyiv within 24 hours if such an attack occurs. The U.S. will also continue to train Ukraine's military, deepen cooperation on defense industry production, and share more intelligence. The agreement also aims to help build Ukraine's long-term deterrence across multiple domains, including air, sea, and cybersecurity. Meanwhile, the G7 leaders also agreed on Thursday to lend Ukraine $50 billion using frozen Russian assets. While the final agreement still needs to be hashed out, most of the money would be lent by the U.S. government using windfall profits from the roughly $300 billion in frozen Russian assets. However, the vast majority of the frozen assets are being held in European Union nations. The U.S. and its allies froze all Russian central bank assets outside of Russia when Moscow invaded Ukraine in 2022. NATO will also aim for an agreement to provide over $42 billion in aid annually to Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference on the first day of the NATO defense ministers meeting in Brussels on Thursday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the agreement could be signed next month at the NATO summit in Washington. He added that the burden of annual financial support would be shared equally among the Security Alliance members. However, Hungary, which has long opposed military support to Ukraine, withdrew from the plan early on. Seung-jae, Arirang News.